Continue today. I want to continue with the idea of what linear functions are. That way you get a chance for the formulas. When you guys start working today, I'm going to put up the last slide that I don't have up here right now. I'm going to put it up where it has all the formulas so you know which one's which. So you can actually identify, like, what is your problem even asking for? Is it asking for slope? Is it asking for point slope form or slope-intercept form or standard? Like, you do need to read the directions. Some of those problems want you to do both, like two different forms, because you have to go from one form to the other. Now, I just kind of picked some from yesterday. So if you did a couple of those problems yesterday, if you were in that pod that had to be over there, these were those problems look like, right? It said, you know, write an equation that's in point slope form, given this information. This is basically what your homework looks like. I think there's quite a few problems on that page 188. That's what they give you. They give you slope, they give you a coordinate, and they say go find this form. You do need to read the directions so you know what form they're giving you. I think they put them in, I think they actually like italicized the word, and they might underline it as well in your textbook, so you know what form you need to go to. Now in this particular problem, you only have to go to one form, but I'm going to show you how to do both. So if you need to go to a different form. So point slope form, again, this will be on the last slide, I'll pop it up here so you can see it. But this is point slope form. Y minus y1, m, x minus x1. Okay. So that's my form. That's what I want to go to, right? So I'm using slope, I'm using your coordinates, I'm going to plug in my numbers. Now, how this works, like what these numbers are, just one more time a refresher. This is slope. This is the coordinates that you're plugging in, x1 and y1. This is your x1. This is the y1 coordinate. They're in alphabetical order. It's called an ordered pair for a reason. So all I have to do is plug those numbers in. So y minus the 5, the slope is 2, and x minus the 3. That's your form. That's it. You're done. You move on to the next problem. That's how simple it is. Like, no joke. That's the first few problems you have. Now in this particular problem, they actually did give you slope. Like we'll do one later. I'm going to click on one of the other ones we have, where you have to actually go find slope. We'll do one of those here in a minute. Now, this one just said go to point slope, that you're done. If it said go to slope-intercept, I'm going to pop that up here. Slope-intercept, then what I would do, no joke, if this is my problem, I would start in that form right there, do that problem, and then rearrange it so that it looks like this. That's when I would go to. The reason why is that all I have to do is distribute the 2 through that parenthesis and move the 5 over to the other side so that the y is by itself. And then that's slope-intercept form. I don't care if there's fractions or decimals or negatives. It doesn't matter. Slope-intercept can be any type of number. Be fractions and whatnot. Does that make sense, like how you get it to a different form? Yes?
So it'll be y equals 5 plus 2x minus 3 minus 6.
Yeah, so you distribute the 2, right? And then you add that 5 across. You add the 5 over. So when you do that, here's what I would get. Because adding a 5 to the negative 6 makes me happy. And that would be slope-intercept form. Now, if it was a fraction, so be it. Whatever. Type it in your calculator if you need to. Okay, questions with how to go do a different form. Okay, I think there was a few problems they ask you to do that. They ask you for point slope and slope-intercept. Well, by doing the work, you're showing both. So that's why I always go to one form. Okay, are we good with the first one? Okay, all right, let's go to problem number 2 here. And again, I'll put up all the formulas. I'll have it up on a little slideshow so you have it here. I'll just freeze it to the board so you can use it. You can work on whatever you need to. I only want to go through 3 problems today. That's all I want to do. So, next one, that one. Okay. This one wants slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. That was the last form I just did, just a little bit ago. Now, the problem is with this one, they didn't give me slope. They gave me 2 coordinates, random numbers, and they want me to go find slope. So that formula, if you don't know what slope is, I'll put it over here. To find slope is this formula that you've learned in algebra class. You subtract the y numbers, you subtract the x numbers. That's the formula we use, right? So in my case, I have to take these coordinates. These are my x and y, I'm gonna subtract those in here to find what my slope is before I start. It doesn't matter which order you go in. So what I mean by that, I can go 2 minus 10 or 10 minus 2 on the top, but once you've committed to one way, you have to stick with that method. So I personally, when I look at this problem, I'm gonna go 10 minus 2. I like to get a positive number on the top. That's just what I'm doing. So I'm going back minus the front number. Again, I have to subtract the y's on the top. On the bottom, I'm gonna go the 5 minus 1, because I'm going back minus the front. I don't care if you went the other way, you get the same answer anyway. The negative signs will cancel. So this is gonna end up being an 8 over 4, which turns out to be just the number 2. Now, if it didn't work out nice and pretty like mine did, like and it turned out to be some weird fraction, just leave it a fraction. You're totally fine with that. Just leave it a fraction, and then we're going to use that as my slope. Okay, questions on the first start of it? I'm not done yet. We're good on how to find slope though. Okay, now I'm going to use that slope, and we're going to go to the next part. So I'm going to start with point slope form. I'm going to start in point slope form, and then I'm going to work my way to the last part. So point slope form, that's this one. This is the form I just did a little bit ago. And then I'm going to rearrange it to slope-intercept, because that's what that question asks for. So my coordinate and my slope. Well, I know my slope's 2. And now all I have to do is pick the x1 and y1. Now, they didn't just give me one coordinate, they gave me 2, right? They gave me a 1, 2, and a 5, 10. All you have to do for the coordinate for x1 and y1, just pick one of the 2 that they gave you. Which one do you like?
1 and 2.
1 and 2. Okay, we're gonna pick that. Again, it's your choice. So I'm gonna pick 1 and 2, I'm gonna plug it in. So x minus the 1, y minus the 2. Y number goes with y, x number goes with x. That's how I always think of it. And if you pick 5 and 10, you get the same answer anyway. It'll be the same answer in the long run. It's weird how it works. Okay, so I'm going to rearrange, I'm going to distribute the 2 through that parenthesis, and then add this 2 across. So when I add the 2 across, it'll end up being a 0. You can put the plus 0, you can just leave the 0 off, it doesn't matter to me, it's the same thing. Questions on that? Okay, I don't think any of those said standard, did they? No, I don't think they did. So, all right.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
I think equation in
Did one of them say standard?
That's one right here.
The last one?
Yeah.
Perfect, let's do that.
Oh, shoot. I did not know that.
All right.
What?
I
But are
was
we-
just asking to ask.
Are-
I didn't know we were gonna do it.
So, are we good? Are we good so far in what I've done? Okay, last question of the day. Last question. All right, we got to write to standard form. That's that last one. What are the numbers on that one? Oh, there it is. Oh, got it. All right, here it is. Found it.
Oh.
Okay, standard form. All right, so on this particular problem, we're going to do the exact same thing I just did in the last one. I'm going to go find slope. I'm going to plug it into point slope form, and then I'm going to rearrange it to standard. Standard was one more step from the problem I just did on the last one. So to find slope, what numbers am I subtracting on the top? The y number.
6
Yeah, 6, yep, 6 minus a negative 2, so that's 6 plus 2. And so I went front minus back, so negative 3 minus 3. So I'm going front minus the back number. You always subtract whatever the numbers are, so that's why it's a minus a negative number. This makes a plus, that's going to make 8. On the bottom, I'm going to get a negative 6. Now, if you want to simplify this, this will be a negative 4/3. I'm fine with that. It's the same thing. You could have left it 8 over 6 for all I care. Questions on how I found slope? Okay, again, y numbers are on the top, x numbers are on the bottom. Now, to finish this problem out, I want to make sure that I write this in point slope form, and then I'm going to rearrange this thing to standard. So point slope is that y minus y number. So y minus y1, m, x minus x1. So this is point slope form, because I just use a point and slope, and then I'll rearrange it to standard. So now, I get to pick one of the coordinates. 6 and 3? Yeah, this one? Okay, all right. So we're going to pick that coordinate, we just pick one of them, and I'm going to use slope, and I'm going to plug it into my formula over there. So plugging in the negative 4/3 and that, so negative 4/3 is going to go here. X minus my X number, Y minus my Y number. My X and Y, well obviously I have a negative 3 for my X, and the 6 for the Y number. The 6 goes to Y, negative 3 goes to the X, because they're alphabetical, right? Now I just rearrange. I'm going to distribute the 4/3. And how you correctly distribute a fraction, when you take a fraction times a number, this ends up being a plus by the way, but when you have the 3 and you take it times a fraction, take 3 times the top and then divide by the bottom. So that's how I do it. 3 times the top is 12, divided by 3 I get negative 4. So here's what I have. So far I have negative 4/3 X, and then negative 4/3 times the negative 3 ends up being a negative 4. The 3's literally cancel each other out when you multiply it. And on the other side I have the minus 6. I'll add the 6 across to the other side. So that's going to make a 2 on the other side. Positive 2, and I add the 6 across to the 4. And again, if that was a fraction, just have it in calculator. You forgot how to add fractions. You got to find it down here.
Wait, where did you get the 2?
Adding the 6 to the 4, because when I brought it across the equal sign, it's a positive 6 now. It comes across.
You just moved the negative 4 to the left.
Yeah, move the negative 4 to the left, because I want to get to standard form, right? Standard form, if you don't remember the forms, because again, I'll put this on the board today. This is standard form. I want to get the X and Y to the same side, and then just the number on the other side. So when I move the 4/3 over, it becomes a positive 4/3 X. The Y is still by itself, and there's that positive 2 still on the other side. Now, the last step here is on standard, you can't leave a fraction. Standard form has to be nice, clean integers, like just nice, clean numbers or positive negatives. They can't have decimals or fractions, no rationals. So to get rid of the fraction here, just multiply everything by whatever's on the bottom. That's just my shortcut for getting rid of fractions. So since there's a 3 on the bottom, I'm going to multiply everything by 3. Now, why you're allowed to do that, it keeps the equation balanced. You did the same thing to both sides, so it is still a balanced equation. So I'm going to multiply it by 3. The 3's here cancel out. Multiply by 3, I'm left with 3y. Multiply by 3 on the other side, I'm left with a 6. There's your answer. If it was decimals, multiply by tens or hundreds or thousands, whatever you need to do, it gets rid of the decimal places. Questions? Okay, homework's on the board, page 188. You have the rest of the class today to work. It's like, what, 13, 14 minutes, something like that, to work. I'll put the formulas up here in a minute. Homework is due Friday. I don't think I have a due date written up there. It's due Friday for you guys. Yeah, there you go. We're done for the day. Yeah.